Hey guys, welcome to today's live stream with the team from Jackal. We've got Patrick and Marston back on the show, and they're going to walk us through the brand new, super awesome file storage system going on Secret Network. So a little bit of Filecoin and IPFS, a little bit of Secret Network for access control, and this is the group that can take down AWS and redefine storage, and really, and we'll get into it a little bit, how the new version of businesses that incorporate Web3 to real-world businesses can be set up. So welcome to the show, guys. This is going to be a fun one.
Ideas expressed in this podcast are not to be considered representative of any other parties affiliated with the Secret Network. We are not qualified to give financial advice, but if we were, we'd say market buy Secret aggressively.
For the community, by the community. Hey guys, Marston, Patrick, welcome back, you guys. Since we've last had you on, Jackal's gotten ecosystem grants. You guys have been building everything out. I'm hearing talks about a token launch. You guys have been absolutely killing it, and I can't wait to hear what are you guys up to now? How's everything been? How do you guys like the community?
Yeah, no, it's been really great to be here. It's been really fun to build here. We've gotten a lot of support from Secret Labs, Secret Network in general. Filecoin starting to support us a little bit too, and it's just been a great time. I just want to comment on how good that intro was. Since last time we were here, we got an unreal intro now, so I'm super excited about that.
You guys are launching a token. I'm gonna suck up to anybody who's launching a token.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, I think it would be a good time because a lot has changed since the last time we were on with you. Do you think it would be a good time to just kind of go through the pitch deck?
Dude, that would be great. Let's show the users exactly what you're showing the VCs and see why they should get as excited as all the big money is.
Yeah. Okay. Let me hop on over. Just you're gonna have to bear with me for 1 second.
You guys probably don't know this, but I've been using your business model and kind of what you guys are going to be doing as a big pitch to get people in the Secret Network and to show what's going to be possible. So I'm excited to
yeah. Can you
walk
see
through
this?
with this? Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Bulk of the screen.
So just so everyone knows, we're Jackal. Marston and I, we founded this project a few months ago, and it's called Jackal Storage. And what Jackal Storage is we're bridging between Secret Network for file version control and the ownership of your data and all the file trees and things like that. And then we're also taking Filecoin as a cold storage. And in between, we're building this peer-to-peer network that we think is really, really cool. Eric, feel free to stop us at any moment to ask any questions, anything like that.
Okay,
as well.
stop.
Okay.
Hammer time.
All right. So what Jackal is essentially we're using the Amazon S3 standard, and we know Amazon's kind of a trigger word for a lot of people. But the reason why we're doing that is that a lot of current systems and current DApps and current enterprises use the Amazon S3 standard for their data storage, and it would be really great if Jackal could hook in the same way that all these other systems do. We're bringing speed, utility, and privacy by default to decentralized cloud storage. We're fully decentralized, and we're the first fully decentralized cloud storage application. And we would bring essentially the highest digital privacy and cybersecurity posture available. And the best thing about Jackal, and the thing that the users and probably a lot of the privacy-focused individuals watching this right now, data can only be accessed or shared by the owner with their private key from their Keplr wallet. Jackal will never, ever have access to the files. We can never see the files because it's encrypted on your physical device before it gets pushed to our nodes.
I love it. So let's hold here. There's a lot of information that you gloss over really quickly because obviously you're super familiar with this, but this is cloud storage. It will be in the okay. So this is cloud storage. Goal is to compete with the likes of Amazon Web Services, who everybody uses right now. And the way you can leverage Secret Network is access control, because the same way you have to make a viewing key to see what tokens you have in your Keplr wallet, you'd have to have a viewing key to see what your data is that's stored. And so nobody else can have that viewing key. If you go to a judge, you can be like, hey, here's you can share my viewing key and you can see this is what we have. So this is the evidence and whatnot that nobody's been able to see. And then when they're done showing it, you can change your viewing key and they don't have access anymore.
Absolutely, and that's a great part. Marston, if you want to break down that a little bit more about the possibilities with viewing keys and permits and the ability to kind of have full control of your data.
Yeah, no, it's really, really cool what's possible with Jackal. So basically all of your on the system, your files are all encrypted on your own client before it even reaches the internet. in any way. Like there's no networking, so everything is totally secure. If you unplugged your router as you were doing file encryption, it wouldn't change a thing. Which is super, super cool, and it's super, super safe for you. And then all of those encryption keys that are paired with that file are shot up into the secret contract. So we're not storing your entire file on the secret contract. That just wouldn't make sense for us. But we're storing all of the metadata and the encryption standards on the contract. So with your viewing key, you will be able to get all of that information. And so if anybody did manage to get their hands on the file that you're sending, they can't do anything with it because it's fully encrypted, and all of that is stored behind your private key. Another thing that's really, really cool is the permission system we're building in, where you can give other secret wallet addresses a whitelist to view your files. So with this, if I want to share a file with Patrick, I just load up his secret address into the contract and I push it to the contract. The contract goes, all right, now Patrick can see it. And if Patrick ever queries that file down, he will be able to view it because he'll get the encryption key from the contract, and our nodes will handle all the data transactions. And with this, we can make some really, really cool stuff, like even being able to serve like whole web pages just on Jackal. And so you won't need to pay to host a website somewhere. You can just throw it up on Jackal and boom, it's there for as long as you're working with Jackal.
This is super cool, and my mind doesn't stop working about seeing how I can use things. And I'm running Secret Swap with Ethan, and this is going great. But I'm thinking personally how I can make like the world's best, most exclusive meme sharing group right here. And that is the least important of all the utility that this offers. But this is where my mind is.
But it's something you can do, and that's the best part, because as long as you're just anybody with a Jackal account, like you're good to go. You can host whatever, and we don't know you're hosting that either. So like you can keep your memes to yourself. We won't be able to steal it.
It's Jackal's the spiciest meme storage on the market right there. Let's move on a little bit. So kind of the problem we're kind of trying to solve here, and it's a really big one, is right now the current way that cloud storage is set up is that there's no real privacy, and a lot of the business models that are set are kind of used to, they sell data, and the way that we're trying to kind of flip that business model on its head is that instead of just mining our users' data, our users own their own data, and for us to keep our users, we have to provide value. And we think that's a really important kind of paradigm shift for where we want to create Jackal and take it. And another kind of thing that we don't really like is that the centralized applications and the legacy systems right now, they're black boxes to the consumer. So you just kind of, you take your file and you send it into the abyss that is Google Cloud or Amazon S3 or Microsoft Azure or Alibaba Cloud, depending on where you are in the world. And you don't really know what happens to your data, and that's used and it's sold in different ways. So we kind of want to flip that a little bit. Decentralized applications don't exist, and that's kind of a huge issue right now. No matter, everyone says, okay, yeah, we have this DApp, but everyone has the same centralized bottleneck, being the cloud storage provider. And we kind of want to change that a little bit and have this extra layer of security and privacy for all these decentralized applications to fully be decentralized. And another thing, talking about true decentralized data storage like speed, right now, if you did want to create, okay, I want to create this DApp and I want it to be fully decentralized, you have to use systems that are either really slow or really cumbersome, or they don't actually serve that usability that Amazon would have. So that's why a lot of applications, they use Amazon as the cloud storage provider. Marston, if you want to talk a little bit about that, that would be a huge thing to kind of touch on.
Yeah, so like a lot of decentralized apps are really great because a lot of these stuff is stored on the contract. But for like larger applications, or even something like NFTs, where you're storing an image or a large file that wouldn't normally fit on chain, you got to keep that somewhere. And keeping it somewhere is just like its own world completely. And the word IPFS gets thrown around a lot. And it's a really great system. I love IPFS, but a lot of people think it's something that it's not. And what it's not is a decentralized hosting system. it's centralized. The retrieval of your file is decentralized. So if I query a node halfway across the world, that node can bounce all the way around back to where it's hosted. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to physically host that data. And that's really tricky. So there are options like Filecoin, and Filecoin's really great because they provide an incentive layer on top of what IPFS is trying to do. So you can shoot your file out to like 10 different people and you pay them in Filecoin to keep that data stored, and they get penalized if they don't keep it stored. And so it creates a really, really nice marketplace to get the cheapest price to store your files. Problem with that is to store that, you need a full node. You basically need like a big computer or access to somebody else's big computer to store those files. And that gets really sucky if you want to use those files on, say, your mobile device, which definitely is not a big computer. So what Jackal's trying to do is try and like kind of be that middleman where we're interacting with Filecoin on the back end to permanently store your files away for like permanently, as permanent as data gets, but as long as possible, and keep bouncing it around on Filecoin so that it basically never goes away. And then we're using IPFS as like a middleman to make your data retrieval really, really fast, but still host that data on our own decentralized network of incentivized nodes.
Yeah, and just to touch on that a little bit, essentially we're creating that hot storage layer where we have this caching, and what caching is I don't know if you go to a website or you're on Google, you can kind of click this there's a drop down menu and you can go to cache data and it shows you all the data that's kind of easily accessible and it's always ready for the consumer. That's essentially what we're creating, is a decentralized caching layer that makes everything super quick and super user friendly and usable.
Awesome. So I'm getting one question here about Akash. I'm familiar with them as a Cosmos-based ecosystem with doing decentralized computing or decentralized cloud computing. Have you guys worked with them? How do you guys compare to them? And how could this work together in the future?
Absolutely.
So we haven't worked with them, but we'd really like to. They're a really great product, and that is a big problem with Akash is if the system goes down, there's no redundancy, like your data's not backed up. I've been talking to the Akash team a little bit to get more information about this. And I think that's where Jackal and Akash really meld together, is you can set up 20 Akash nodes, all pointing to the same Jackal account. And all of those Akash nodes will be storing on the same Jackal system. So if one of those Akash nodes dies, okay, just spin up a new one and the data's all there, stored on Jackal forever, which is really, really cool. And on top of that, the Akash nodes don't need to be these big, beefy nodes to interact with Jackal in the way that, like, say, Filecoin nodes would have to be if you wanted to build it on top of their system, which I think is a really, really great integration. We're actually thinking of going with Akash to build out like a web gateway type thing. And hopefully, we get to that once our product's all done, unless somebody beats us to it.
Yeah, well, another thing just to add to that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marston, but Akash is kind of more like let's compare it to kind of current legacy systems. Akash kind of gives me the Oracle company, where they're like cloud computing and spinning up different virtual machines and things like that.
Yeah.
And we're kind of more of the hot storage layer, where we're storing a lot of data and keeping kind of more like the Amazon S3 or the Google Cloud. And both of those kind of work together really, really well to provide really cool applications as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you. Awesome question, Leanson. Thanks for diving into that. Carry on. You guys are doing kick butt job.
Yeah, so this is kind of our favorite graphic that we kind of made kind of in Microsoft Paint, basically. so essentially at the top over here, we kind of have all the DApps, and they're all, we're in the digital forensics industry and investigations industry. And we fingerprint every single network, and we audit a lot of decentralized applications. And we'll get to this a little bit later, but how we got here, but they all use the same system, and everyone kind of uses Google Cloud or AWS or Microsoft Azure. And a lot of the users' data sits on a server, and they say, okay, we use storage or we use IPFS. But when you input your data and then the decentralized application takes the data, it's going through this gateway, which is the AWS or the cloud storage, before it gets to IPFS or gets to storage, or they just don't have IPFS or storage either, so they're just using AWS, and that data gets mined and it gets sold and it gets analytics are run on it, and that's all kinds of things that we're trying to move away from, so we can have this paradigm shift in the industry.
Awesome. So Jackal could work with everything that's currently built right now.
That's essentially why we use the Amazon S3 standard, because with a few lines of code, we can approach a DApp, or we can approach an enterprise or just an individual, and we can just start hosting on their behalf. And it's really, really easy integration for us, which is really important for kind of viral growth as well.
Yeah.
And that's something we've been really pushing is developer tools. Like Jackal's very, like, we have a consumer model where you go in and you store your personal files and everything. But at the end of the day, we see this more as a developer tool. So like somebody could build a Dropbox system on top of Jackal, but it's not necessarily Dropbox in itself. We're really pushing developer tools, and we're really trying to onboard as many people to build on us as possible, because we are such a big infrastructure layer. We're not so much just a product for you and I to use necessarily.
Yeah, you guys aren't just a DApp. You are a full-on infrastructure ecosystem that other people can continue to grow.
We would be a full privacy stack. And that's why a lot of our
Nice.
treasury, when we start to release more about our tokenomics, a lot of our treasury that's kind of community allocation through DAO Vote is going to go directly to developers looking to build applications. And when we raise a lot of the capital in the early days to kind of create the runway we need for Jackal before we need to make it either profitable to kind of continue, a lot of that money goes into human capital, so we can hire developer support, and every developer team gets a designated Jackal representative, so we can build a huge layer of applications on top of us. And we think that's really important, really healthy for not only Secret, not only Filecoin, but also for us.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our solution that we've touched on a few times probably by now. Is we want the users to own their own data with their Kepler wallet, or you can integrate it with a hardware wallet too, and have that level of control over your data. We're a fully decentralized privacy stack from the ground up. And here's the important part that a lot of people like, is that we're providing everything at an unbeatable price point, which is 80% cheaper than legacy systems per terabyte per month. Man. So that's kind of our competitive advantages, is that we have a higher digital privacy and cybersecurity posture, and we're way cheaper.
So this is what gets me. I see so much in Secret Network. People are like, okay, we're going to take what already exists and we're going to do it with privacy. And everyone knows privacy comes with a premium. The whole idea of like, oh, well, join Secret Network because Ethereum may eventually get a layer 2 that could hopefully give some privacy, but it's going to be really expensive. You guys aren't just trying to build an AWS, but private and decentralized, which, don't get me wrong, would be incredible in and of itself. But you're also going to be like, hey, even if you didn't care about the privacy, this is just that much cheaper than everything else you guys are using. That's what really gets me. That's what's going to make these deals so much easier to attain.
And we also think it's really important for the accessibility of a service like this. If we make it easier to access, if we make it, the other thing is that we don't have the traditional borders that other companies have. Our target market is anyone with an internet connection, and that's super important to us. So we want to provide it to individuals everywhere, and we think that price, by just jamming the price down as much as possible to make a really cool ecosystem and a healthy ecosystem and an accessible ecosystem, is really important without any barriers to entry.
100%.
Yeah. So this is kind of one of our decals of the Zero Trust system. This is a really big generalization, obviously, but essentially the applications and the end users don't necessarily have to share information. They can do it through Jackal system. And Marcy, you can talk kind of about how we can play with read and write privileges and things like that. I think this would be a good time to talk about that particularly.
Yeah, so it's really, really interesting, just some of the brainstorms that we've come up with while we've been working on this. But like a huge thing that I see is like storing user statistics and like all of their information about how they interact with the web page, or if it's a video game, like how their scores and everything. Obviously, there's a lot that you don't want to give full power to the user if you're like a competitive online game. But if you're just like a browser game, like Cookie Clicker, all that stuff's stored in your browser. Now, that's really cool, but they still have control over it. So what if you were the owner of that data and you basically leased it back to the application? A really, really good like analogy and even a use case is like, if I go to my doctor, they have all my medical records. And if I want to switch doctors, I have to get them to send it over to my new doctor, which is a real pain, right? What if I had all my medical records and I just let them see it and they were the only ones to see it? And when I switched doctors, I just cut them off because I have full control over my data, full read and write privilege access. And then I just added my new doctor to the waitlist. And so I have all my data, but they can still read it. Even I could give them write permission over it. So they could read and write my data if I wanted to let them have that control. But at the end of the day, I can still cut them out at any point and switch to a new provider for anything, which is just a total paradigm shift in the way we deal with data.
And another really cool thing on top of that is you can collect your own data and you can monetize your own data. So instead of just you use a service such as the usual suspects that we usually talk about, which is the Amazon and Googles of the world, you can choose who you sell your data to. And if there's a project or an AI that you truly believe in, it's what Jackal's about is about choice. And having the ability to have that choice is something that we don't have right now. And the ability to choose who I sell my data to, or if I don't want to sell my data, I don't have to. But it's about the ability to have the power back in the user's hands of their own information, which is, it should be like that way from the ground up. And that's why we are so passionate about building this product.
Yeah. Excellent use cases. Kristen Bowman saying she loves the idea of the of the medical use cases. That's fantastic. I know some people have talked about making that, but this would be huge.
So many different things. So this is kind of like the technical. If anyone's watching the stream afterwards, we don't have to go through everything here, but this is kind of like the technical how our system uploads a file here. Where if you look here, essentially the user sends the file to the client, and this is an isolated client, so we don't have access to it. And it's encrypted, Marcin, before there, or is it encrypted in the client?
Yeah, so it's encrypted in the client, but the client's just your own computer. So that client is like totally isolated from the internet. Again, if you wanted to unplug your computer from the internet while you're doing all of your encryption, that's totally fair game if you're really uncomfortable with that. And then that file is yours. It never leaves your computer unencrypted.
Yeah, and here's the secret network here. So essentially it's a key request from your computer, you get the key result, and then it gets pushed to our node system. And then we kind of take that file. We have a really high level redundancy to make sure that it's always out there. We store it at Filecoin as the cold storage, and we spread it through our own cache layer as well. If we want to kind of move over to receiving a file, it's a little bit more complicated, but essentially your computer key request, key result, and then it sends the file location to the server, and then it kind of works with all the servers to find the file. None of them can read the file, but it's just to locate it and then give it back to you, essentially.
Cool.
We can get into the birth of Jackal a little bit. So Marcin and I, we said this over and over again, and essentially we were creating an e-discovery product, and what e-discovery is it's when you have evidence for the courts, you need kind of a chain of custody, and currently in the court system in a lot of different jurisdictions, there's a lot of evidence could easily be tampered with if it's digital, and there's no kind of chain of custody, and the security around that isn't that great. So we wanted to build something called Keepsake, and it's just a management tool using blockchain at its core, essentially. But we have this roadblock where we said, okay, so we have everyone's evidence for the very, very important court cases. Where do we store this? I don't feel comfortable storing it with Amazon.
Google Drive.
Exactly.
That was our testing ground, and we were like, what are we doing? This stuff is so sensitive, and we're just handing it away to somebody else. Like, that's not how we do it.
And or we could do it on our own servers. We can throw them in the back of the office. But the issue with that as well is that now we can have a DDoS attack, or we're responsible, and the system's not as secure as it possibly could be because of the legacy systems that are currently existing. So we said, okay, how about we take a step back and we build what we need to provide this product? And it turned into a whole new thing. We said, okay, this isn't the only application that needs this. Pretty much everyone that wants to quote unquote be decentralized needs a product like this. So we decided to start building it out, and here we are.
I be the change you want to see. I love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
Target market is the privacy and security focused consumers. Hopefully there's a few of those listening, Eric. And then the rest is enterprises, developers looking to build decentralized applications. direct competitors, indirect competitors. Or direct competitors are storage. Indirect competitors are AWS, Google, and the usual suspects over here. And we have a tool called Altigo. And what Altigo is it's a digital forensics tool that you fingerprint networks. And if someone wanted to fingerprint the network of storage, you would start to realize that there's a lot of this and a lot of this in this. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to say too much more than that. And that is that. Marcin, you want to add anything?
No, I'm pretty sure you covered that. There's a lot of overlap in a lot of places that you don't want to see overlap. And Jackal promises no overlap.
Yeah, and if you guys are listening back on the podcast and missing this awesome pitch deck that they've been presenting on the YouTube, they're saying that the Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services is heavily integrated in storage, which you guys can come to your own conclusions on the security of that, but let alone at a higher price. So you mentioned that your guys' goals of clients and who you guys are marketing to are people like privacy-focused consumers or big enterprises, but really anybody who uses any kind of data storage can just do it cheaper here, even if you didn't give a crap about like how this is better in every way technically, in addition to being that much cheaper.
Yeah, we just want to be cheaper than the legacy systems. We wouldn't be that much cheaper than storage. We'd be pretty head-to-head or maybe a little bit cheaper. I think storage is $5 a terabyte per month, if I remember correctly. I think we can probably beat them as well at that, even though we're a specialty system, but we think it's really important to lower the barrier to entry. Awesome. But other competitive advantages is privacy, cybersecurity posture. We're big cybersecurity guys and privacy advocates as well. So having that is really important, and using blockchain private keys and blockchain signatures and having a password list and email list system is a lot more secure. I have a thing that I might be able to share with you after this, Eric, so you can kind of understand a little bit more why we're so bullish on using private keys instead of traditional user profiles. Let's say that. Also, we want to be easier to use, easier to build on. And the big thing is we want to have that unmatched developer support and also just be really user friendly. And we think that's super important to mass adoption of the product.
So speaking of mass adoption, you guys are talking about how you're going to be cheaper, you're going to be better, you're going to be faster, easier to build and develop on. If you guys absolutely do take off, which you 100% can and should, how well will this scale? Like, will you guys be able to handle the load that Amazon Web Services does eventually? Are you going to hit some stopgap of you surpass the ability of Filecoin or anything going on in the back end?
Well, so we can talk about that, Marcin. If you want to add, I can probably step up afterwards.
Yeah, basically, so our whole thing is our nodes are competitive. So the more clients will be able to upvote and downvote nodes based on their performance, which is a really good system for speed. So initially we're starting with, like just a couple lower end computers to run these nodes because we want decentralization first. That's our big thing. But once we start getting our nodes like set up in, say, big data centers where their throughput is unreal, those nodes will be upvoted much more than a random guy running a computer in a basement. And not to say that computer in the basement won't work, but if these data center nodes are faster and better, they will get more use. And so you'll be able to receive your files a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently than, say, any other node, which those nodes that do more faster also will be incentivized more because they're completing more transactions, which means more rewards. And overall, that just creates like basically Jackal going up and up and up and up and up and up. And I think probably the biggest bottleneck for speed for us would be interacting with the secret network itself, just based off of the smart contract encryption and decryption speeds. But other than that, the sky's kind of the limit.
And
balls in your court, secret network.
Well, the other thing of that is that doesn't mean that those individual computers that are in a basement won't serve a role on our system, and they would still
100%.
They would still be profitable, and their job essentially at that point, if they're not actually doing a lot of transactions, they're watching the other network. As we say, it's a trustless system. So all these nodes will be pinging other nodes to make sure that all the files are doing the right jobs, and they'll be serving a really good role. They'll also be extremely profitable as well.
Cool. I've gotten about 17 questions here in the chat that pretty much are summed up by ZeroX Nuggets. Win merch, bro.
I know who that is. For sure. Essentially, so future roadmap. This is where we are right now, Q1 2022. That MVP. We're gonna have the testnet coming up. We'll talk about a little bit of that afterwards. Integration, developer support, Blitz. That's how we want to kind of take the same Chainlink model of running Jackal, and that's hiring on a lot of developer support people, and also hiring integration specialists that are going to run around and essentially try to integrate Jackal with as many platforms as possible. Q3, we want to start creating our own native apps, and also we're going to be in Q2. Developers can already start building on us, but we're going to have our native apps, things like Keepsake that we've already built, I guess, would be a good thing to put on there. And then in Q4, Jackal Nomads, where we want to try to see if we can start creating professional service platforms where people can start offering professional services across geographical regions, which would be really interesting as well. This is essentially the end of our thing. Get in touch, Proton Mail if anyone wants to email us that's listening, and Jackal_DAO on Twitter. We also have a website, which is a splash page until we have our alpha launch. I'm going to stop sharing this if I can find where I am here. And
Good, it's off screen.
are we all good?
Yeah. Dude, that is a heck of a pitch deck. It is ambitious, attainable, and game-changing. All the things that I absolutely love about it, and what I'm looking for in a project. So great job. You guys mentioned a little bit beforehand that there's going to be some alpha testing come up. Can you guys walk me through what that is and how people can get involved?
Absolutely. So if you go to our Twitter, we have a pinned tweet essentially that just is a sign up form, and it's a one text phrase answer, so we can kind of gauge how many people are interested. When we get closer to alpha launch, we're going to have incentivized testing as well, so people can earn pre-launch Jackal tokens, which is really cool as well, for free. And how you do that is you just kind of play with our system, figure out what does work, what doesn't work, and you're going to be able to fill a form if comfortable. And if the problem on the form is actually something that's actionable by us and is something that's really important for us to know, we're going to be rewarding with Jackal tokens as well. So that's kind of how we're going to, essentially we're an open source project, right? So that's kind of how we're going to get stronger as time goes on, get more efficient as time goes on, and become a larger network as time goes on as well.
Very cool. We do still have a community spotlight question for you.
All right.
How do you plan on bringing people to use Jackal storage? What is that marketing strategy? This is on Twitter @Claudio, bunch of strings of numbers afterwards, but we will give you 2.5 secret and reach out over Twitter. So thank you, Claudio, for the question.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Essentially, what we're going to be doing, we touched on this a little bit, but it's hiring with a lot of the money that we're going to be raising through the Launchpad and through the private sale. We're going to be hiring a lot of human capital, and it's going to be a lot of integration specialists and a lot of developer support. And we gain more usability, and Jackal as an index of the token raises as we have more applications built, amount of unique transactions increase, and amount of enterprises and individuals using the product increases. So that's kind of where we're gunning for, and we're going to be doing that in Q2.
Cool. Well, I'm already an evangelist. I've been doing a decent amount of networking myself from the Secret Swap side recently, and I've been using you guys as a big pitch of what's possible on Secret Network and what we're bringing to Secret Swap, because we're definitely doing that once you guys launch a token. So can you tell me a little bit about the token list? And no, ZeroX Nugget, you don't just threaten them until they start using.
That's hilarious. It's essentially what we're going to be doing. I honestly, Nugget's making me forget about the question. What was the question, Eric?
Oh man, oh Nugget. About the tokenomics, can you guys walk us through what the Jackal token is going to look like, when we can expect it, any pre-sale, or how can people get their hands on it?
So right now, if everything goes to plan, which usually they don't in DeFi, but we're beating our goals right now, so hopefully we can stay on that same trajectory. After the alpha, which ends at the beginning of March, we are going to have a 2-week window before mainnet launch. In that 2-week window, we actually have to launch our token, or else we can't incentivize our nodes. So we're under the gun essentially to make sure that we have that token launch before we get to that next step.
Cool.
So it'll be mid-March before Q2 is our token's going to be coming out 100%.
All right, mid-March, token should be coming out. And how can we get involved in the alpha test? I want to use this.
Absolutely. So the alpha test is an open alpha. Essentially, you just use your private key, you sign in, and then you start trying to break it or store your spicy memes, as we were talking about earlier. So you can hop on, you can figure out what works, you can try to upload crazy files, and just let us know how our product works, because we're building this and we kind of have our horse blinders on trying to get this done, but we don't know how great it's going to be until we optimize it and really figure out what the issues are. And we're not naive. We're not going to publish a perfect system right away, but we need that community support and we need that community help to make sure that our product gets better and better.
And one disclaimer, for the alpha, we cannot guarantee that anything you upload will be there once the mainnet launch. So don't store anything that you like really, really want in there. You can back it up, and like if you have a Filecoin node, you'll be able to retrieve them that way, but we can't guarantee that all of the Jackal like linkage will exist. So don't store anything and then delete it off your computer if you want it again.
It's an alpha test. Treat it like a test.
It's an alpha test, and
awesome.
We got to treat it as such.
I've got one more very technical question for you guys, just because I've come to a bunch of people who are having confusion on this. By a bunch of people, I definitely mean me. But I know you guys use your own specialized nodes that work with Filecoin and IPFS. What is the difference, and how do you use both of them?
Okay, so IPFS is basically like a peer-to-peer network of a bunch of other computers that make discovering files really, really easy. So if I set up my own node and I pin a file to it, it'll give me an ID of that file, and then like my computer connects to a bunch of other computers, and then those computers connect to a bunch of other computers, and they all share this table of where to find that file. So if some random computer halfway across the world looks up the ID of my file, it'll bounce around from computer to computer all the way back to mine where I'm hosting the file. And then that computer, every computer on the way, it might save that file and say, you know what, actually, I see this file is being used quite a lot. So I'm gonna keep a version for myself, and I'm gonna store it. So now it's stored in multiple places, and you can get it from any one of those places, but there's no real guarantee that it'll ever be there. And if all those nodes decide to drop dead, then your file's gone. You got to make sure that it's hosted. And Filecoin is really, really cool, made by Protocol Labs, the guys that make IPFS as well. They use a lot of the same technology, but to make basically like an incentivized layer. So you still connect with a bunch of nodes all around the world, and I take my file and say, hey, I want to store this file, and then I can pick whichever miner I want, and I can say, hey guys, here's my file, here's some Filecoin, store it for 3 years. And that node will go, okay, I'll store it for 3 years, it'll seal the deal, and I can send it to as many of them as I want. And then when I want to, I can go into my Filecoin node and say, I want that file back. I can figure out where the file is, I can get it back, but I have to pay to receive that file. So it's really good, but only for like cold storage, stuff you want to store for a very long time and not read and write every second. That's when it gets kind of tricky and expensive. But so what's really, really good is if you kind of like layer the two on top of each other, you get this really cool system where you have files that are really, really discoverable, and then you have files that are stored away for a very long time. And so when you combine the two, you get files that are stored for a very long time and are really easy to find. So with that, what we've done is we've integrated those two systems into our Jackal nodes, and our Jackal nodes are their own network, and they connect to each other. And so if I ask a Jackal node for a file, it'll give me the copy it has, but if it doesn't have it, it'll go to its neighbor and say, hey, do you have it? And it'll bounce around our own system. And then if it's really not there, we'll shoot it out to the IPFS network because somebody might have even grabbed it from there. And that's a really cool system where we add like a load balancer and redundancy. And then on top of that, all the files are stored in Filecoin as well. So at any given moment, you have your file stored for a very, very long time. Even if this Jackal node goes down and a new one pops up, it can still go grab it from Filecoin if it loses the file in its hot storage.
Yeah. So essentially, as a TLDR for people like me, essentially what we're kind of talking about is, you know, when you're on Facebook or you're on another social network and you scroll far enough and then it starts to load. that's essentially what the Amazon S3 standard is doing. So they go from really hot storage to medium storage, and medium storage to cold storage. So we're kind of layering. Filecoin is the cold storage. IPFS is kind of like this medium storage, but we can't rely on it. And Jackal's the hot storage, where it's really quickly accessible. So we're layering all three together to provide a really, really great product is what we're trying to do.
Very cool. And yeah, excellent explanation of the differences behind them in a way that someone like me could understand. I appreciate it. But guys, this is super cool. And the three things that I always really look for when we're talking to like a new project, I believe I talked to you guys a little bit about it last time you were on the show, which was an awesome episode. But is the problem like real? Is it an actual problem that needs to be solved? Is the solution actually going to work? And then can the team actually deliver the solution? The problem is absolutely real. Your guys' solution is incredible, and you guys do have the expertise to build this out. You have the experience working with data cybersecurity and and also, I mean, obviously you've shown enough, not only just with this awesome presentation, but with the actual code base and whatnot behind it, that you've gotten grants from the Secret Network ecosystem. You've gotten grants from the Filecoin ecosystem. Like all of these other projects are like, hey, yeah, this is cool, and you guys are delivering. And that's really awesome, and that's a great testament to the work you guys have put in. So excellent job.
Yeah, no, we're working really hard to pull this off, and we think we have the right team. We have all the right. We think we're at the right time too, right? So we think it's we threw a bunch of things into a melting pot to solve a problem for us, and then we realized it was a lot bigger of a problem really quickly. So we scaled up. We have a team of 7. A lot of them in the chat are like Nugget, and essentially we have a really great team, and we're only going to start scaling up more. Our biggest expense will be human capital over the next 2 years.
100%. Well, thank you. I got now people are listening to this and they're coming up with their own solutions. We've got a Wise Beyond Bitcoin. So this could allow for discrete memberships to a DAO for disenfranchised people and communities, whether religious, political, etc., to share access to data while remaining private. 100%.
Yeah, that was a big thing we were looking at. Were like communities, especially if you're not in North America. We have a big following from outside of North America where maybe their governments are a little more strict of what they can and can't practice, and that kind of stuff creates this really cool ecosystem where your data is yours and who you want to share it with can access it, but it's all at the end of the day just like giving a flash drive to your friend. It's not so much sending something around.
What happens when Facebook says they won't serve your country anymore, or Amazon Web Services says, hey, your political identification means that we won't service you anymore? Like, these are actual things that are starting to happen. Twitter will ban people for ideologies, and that's one of the issues with centralization that's coming more and more to the forefront of the socioeconomic and political surface right now. So a decentralized version where anybody can have access and it's not yours to control is incredible.
Yeah, it's essentially we're just creating. Governments can do a lot of things, but it's really hard to block your internet connection. We have things like DVPNs and all these different things as well. And stacking us with cloud computing like Akash and DVPNs and throwing all these things into a melting pot, you create a very, very difficult thing to stop. And we think it's really important for, you see protests around the world. It's Hong Kong situations. We have a big Iranian following as well. It's not everything is security and privacy are a lot more important in a lot of different places. We're Canadians, Eric, I think you're in the States, but it's not really, it's hard for us to comprehend the issues essentially that a lot of people are facing. And we think Jackal can help a lot of people in a lot of different regions.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so very much for coming on and explaining all this. This is wonderful. I'm super excited for Jackal. We could get our hands on the token starting in March. What's the easiest way to get your hands on the token?
So we're going to be probably doing a launch pad. Launch pad hasn't been built yet, so we're hoping we can find a launch pad to launch on. In the event that we can't get on a launch pad, it's going to be we'll probably try to figure out a way to provide our own liquidity and start trading.
Cool.
This is another if, it would be a lot better for us to get on Launchpad. But if you want tokens in the meantime, our incentivized testing would be the best way to get it, and it would be pre-launch.
Cool. All right. You guys aren't doing an airdrop?
Yeah, we are doing an airdrop. Right now, we're looking at doing a triple airdrop between Secret, Cosmos, and also Terra. So those are the 3 ecosystems we'll be doing airdrops, and stay tuned for the information you need to do to be eligible to receive that airdrop as well.
Love it. So if you guys are in Secret, Adam, and Terra, you have a good chance of getting that airdrop. So that is super cool. I'm getting involved in the alpha test. So if you guys need a stake to earn an airdrop, check out the Secret Code podcast node, because if you're staked, you're going to get your wallet whitelisted to our dank meme storage on the alpha test.
Sounds good.
All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to share while you guys are here? You got the audience?
I think we pretty much touched it all. It was a pretty we got a lot of information out really quickly, which we're really happy about. I think I'm all good. Marcin, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm all good. All the tech stuff. If you want more information about all the tech stuff, we have on our website, we have a little bit of a wiki where we're updating all of the more technical details if you want to go dig around.
Awesome. And we'll drop the website. And do you guys have a Discord? I know you have a Telegram.
Yeah, website, Discord, Twitter, Telegram. I'll give you all the links you need, Eric. And after this, actually, we're going to be doing a little after party at 2:00 Eastern time in, oh my goodness, I just forgot about the name of the service. What's it called again, Marcin?
Gathertown.
Gathertown. So we're going to be in Gathertown. I don't know if anyone's ever been on that, but it's a fun little place to meet. And Eric, if you want to come over there afterwards, that'll be fun as well.
I have a meeting. I want to. I didn't know.
All right.
Thank you guys so much. Awesome episode. Guys, watch this back. Learn as much as you can about Jackal. We're changing the game. You guys, DVPN, Akash, you guys are making a super stack. You guys are a very necessary component.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Eric.